What's up, SC Nation? Back when I was in university and trying to get a job for an internship. One of the interviews that I did was with a company called RIM, which is now BlackBerry. They used to make phones, now they're a security company. But that's not the point. The point is, I was having the best interview of my young career at that time, answering the questions the way they wanted. And then one question popped up. How do you choose a phone? So that was back in 2007. And phones were not as advanced as today. And in my mind, I'm like, it makes calls. And what came into my mind actually popped out of my mouth, which was a bad idea. As soon as I said that, I knew that I lost that opportunity right then and there. And that got me thinking, why do people lose opportunities or not get the offer? And that's what I want to tackle today. Now, if you don't know me, before we get there, my name is Ramzi Majraba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada. And I help aspiring sales engineers get jobs, and I help existing sales engineers upskill and move on to bigger, better things, if that's what they want. So I do that through the YouTube channel, through the hotline. There's a bunch of different places. Anyways, let's talk about today's topic. I kind of divided it into two parts of why you're not getting the job offer. One, you're not getting noticed, as in you're not getting the interview to begin with. And two, you're doing something wrong in the interview. So let's break it down. Let's talk about getting noticed first. How do people get noticed? Well, the one way that you get noticed is through LinkedIn, mainly, especially if you're looking for a job position. And I've talked to many people, I've helped many people who have like 200 connections. 200 connections is not enough to get you noticed anywhere. If you're in a room full of 200 people, that's amazing. But you're in a room full of 1 million people and only 200 people know you. So you're going to need to figure out how to connect with more people. If you're trying to become a sales engineer specifically, you're going to need to connect with as many sales engineers, sales managers, directors that you can. And if you're not maxing out your LinkedIn free LinkedIn connection maximum number, I guess that's English, then you will need to do that. Max out, send out invitations to as many people as possible. It maxes out per week or per month. Start connecting. Managers, salespeople, sales engineer managers, sales directors, especially if you're going into tech, connect with SEs and salespeople in tech so that you can actually get noticed, for one. And two, connect with people that have Lion at the end of their name. It's an acronym, stands for LinkedIn Open Networking. So connect with them and make sure that they're usually recruiters, actually, so they can see you so that when they're doing their search, they find you. And you will need to optimize your LinkedIn so that the target audience that you're trying to get after, they will notice you when they do a search. And if you're going to connect with people, make sure you leave a note. It could be as simple as like, I'm trying to break into sales engineering. You look like you're very active online and I want to learn from you. Hopefully we can connect. It could be as simple as that. And most people don't have a problem with it because especially if they're active online, it's more audience for them. So number two, your resume and LinkedIn suck. It could be that your resume doesn't have enough information to actually get past the automated system, the ATS, when you're applying to jobs, but also it doesn't let you stand out of the crowd. So if it does get past the ATS, or if your LinkedIn, it gets noticed by someone and all they see is a job description of what you've done in the past, it goes to the bottom of the pile. So you need something enticing to get managers to help you, to notice you. So you need to focus on impact. I've had a few videos talking about that. Make sure you watch those after you're done with this. So the third thing is not attending meetups. I already mentioned that. There's a bunch of meetups around. It's like SENY. They have a meetup in New York, but they also have chapters in Boston, in Toronto, in Sydney. They have chapters everywhere. There's also the Pre-Sales Collective that they do meetups as well. So check those out. Self-doubt. You're stopping yourself from applying to jobs. And I'll dig into that a little bit more in other videos as well. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below. But one of the most common complaints that I get, or concerns that I get, is I don't have pre-sales experience, and I want to create that video to break that down a little bit more, what that means. Let me know if you're interested in that. So now that's not getting even into the interview. Now let's talk about when you get to the interview, why you're not getting the job offer, which is you can't communicate experience. Going back to I don't have any pre-sales experience. Almost everybody does in one way, shape, or form. If you break down pre-sales, I guess I'll break it down here. Break down pre-sales into a bunch of different skills. Could be like presenting, demonstration, customer management, and all that. You might have done each of those in different capacities for other companies or in other roles. As a support engineer, I had to manage customers all the time. I also had to present them with solutions. I would say don't combine the pre-sales skills together and say I don't have any pre-sales skills. Break it down and see what skills you have and make sure those are not only on your resume. When you're talking to the hiring manager and the fellow SEs and salespeople, make sure you highlight those and how you've done them in the past. You're underselling your impact. So, again, check out the videos. But a lot of people focus on what they've done. Like, hey, I've worked in support for 5 years where I supported 5 different customers. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Almost anybody who's been in support has done the same thing. What was different? What have you done differently in that job? What was your impact? And how can you highlight that? That's where people make mistakes in interviews and they don't highlight it. They just state what they've done in the past. And I know it's hard because we've been taught to be humble our entire lives. Like nobody likes to show off, etc. But now you're the product. It's your turn to show off. So make sure that you focus on the impact, and you're not showing off. You're just talking about the impact you've had. Number 7 is answering with hypotheticals. Like, hey, one question that I usually hear is like, how do you like to learn? How do you enjoy learning new things? And I hear the responses, oh, if I were to learn a new thing, I would go on YouTube, I would go on this, I'll go on that. But haven't you learned something already? If so, how have you learned that? Share that story of how you've learned. Because hypotheticals are hypotheticals. They're not concrete. You haven't done that. But if you have done something in the past and you can share that story, you're telling the hiring manager, even if you don't have the technology knowledge that they're looking for, is that you have had a requirement to learn something in the past and you've actually learned it. And this is how. It doesn't really matter. I don't know why they asked that question. It doesn't really matter how you learn, as long as you've learned something. Make sure that you answer with concrete examples of how you've done something in the past. How would you deal with a tough customer? Well, I would do. No, it's not you would. How have you? I actually had the situation happen to me in the past, and this is how I've dealt with that. Another reason you're not getting the job interview is hitting the like button, but some may say that I'm biased about that. But hey, please, hit the like button. You're also focusing on facts and forgetting the emotion behind it. People make decisions based on emotion. We like to think that we make them based on facts. Facts do matter, especially if it's a decision by committee. But emotion gets you to the next step. And I'm not saying forgo the facts. I'm saying state the facts in an emotional way. Hey, have you had to overcome how would you overcome a difficult customer? Well, this is how I've done in the past. And in the end, they felt so happy with the services that I provided that they did this, and that. So add a little bit of emotion. Be emotional. Be passionate about it, I guess. More passionate than just stating what you've done. Stating facts, stating numbers like, hey, I hit 130% of quota. Whoop-de-doo. I hit 130% of quota when I didn't even have a salesperson to help me achieve that goal, for example. Or I had to train my salesperson while we're trying to hit that quota. That makes a bit of a difference. Hitting 130% is great. Hitting 130% with all this emotion behind it is even better. So number 9 is not understanding their motivation, right? Why are they looking to hire now? Why are they looking to hire? Why now? What is it that they're looking for? What happens if they don't hire? And so I was talking to someone and they mentioned that, oh, they're looking to backfill someone. But why? Do they need to backfill someone? Or is there an actual need to backfill someone? Could someone else just take over? It could be that there is a need, but why is that need? Try to understand that. Try to understand what they're looking for in their SE. If they're looking for someone with 15 years of experience in a certain topic, and you don't have that, now you could qualify yourself out of the opportunity early on so you can move on to the next thing. I always advise you don't, especially if you don't have many interviews under your belt, because it's good practice. But if you've done 5, 6 interviews and you don't need to practice anymore, then qualify yourself out. Say, okay, I don't have that. Is that going to be a problem in the future? Or I have this instead of that. Would that work? Like if you're looking at a startup company and they're trying to hire their first SE and you've never been an SE in your entire life, qualify yourself out of the opportunity right away, immediately. Like don't think about it. Just like I'm done, because you don't have the support you need to actually be a good SE. Just having the title sales engineer doesn't actually mean you're a sales engineer, or a good one at least. So try to understand their motivation. And try to understand that each person within that chain has different motivations. The hiring manager is trying to hire someone that can do the job. Fellow SEs are trying to find someone who are not going to suck all their time and they won't have to do their work for them. The sales director is trying to find someone who can help their salesperson sell. So dig into that and try to understand their motivation. And now you can actually answer their questions with that motivation in mind. You don't have the experience needed. It's very possible that you just don't have it. And there's not much you can do about it. And generally speaking, there are few different types of experiences that you would need. Either industry experience, customer experience, or technology experience. If you're in a certain industry, you can apply to vendors in that industry so that you have at least the industry experience. You can apply to your current vendors as well. Now you have customer experience. And you also, if they're already your vendors and you use their product, you have technology experience. But sometimes if you apply to a company that is servicing a different industry, a different customer set, and you don't have the technology, then it's a tall order. It's not a very strategic move. It's a very high hanging fruit, as they say. So, and you can always work on getting certifications, AWS, CCNA. Check out my previous video with Trevor. I'll link it somewhere as well. Here. I don't even know which side it comes up. Could be a year that it's not a good fit altogether. Sometimes they're looking for an SE with experience. For example, a startup. I mentioned that earlier. If you're a brand new SE, you don't want to be an SE at a startup. It's not a good fit. If they're going to leave you to your own devices and you don't have any SE experience, it's not a good fit. If they're looking for an inside sales engineer, someone who does demos all day, but you want to be a field SE, that's not a good fit. So it just happens sometimes. We're not going to close every deal. I mean, I applied for a year before I became an SE initially. And, I'm helping people do it in a much shorter periods of time, but that we're doing that by targeting the right opportunities, not by applying willy-nilly to every single opportunity that's out there. Yeah, you're not being proactive. One of the first things that are usually asked in interviews, like, what do you know about us? If you haven't downloaded the freemium that they have available, if they have a freemium, if you haven't downloaded the white paper, if you haven't watched YouTube videos, if you haven't talked to anybody in that industry, in that domain, you're not being proactive, and that's going to show. And you might not want to do it when you're talking to the recruiter, but when you're talking to the hiring manager, you want to be able to say that you've done those things. You are being proactive. You are doing your research, because if you're not doing your research to get a job, are you going to do your research to do a discovery call with a customer? Are you going to be doing your research to do a proper demo based on some requirements that you're not familiar with from the customer? It shows a lot about you. So do your research, come prepared with questions as well. And being prepared also helps you anticipate objections that could come up, like, oh, you don't have industry experience. No, I don't have industry experience, but I have X, Y, and Z that could make up for it. Right? So you can handle objections earlier and nip them in the bud. Like, I've had interviews where one of the requirements was, Linux. And I kind of tell them, like, no. Before they even ask, like, Linux is not one of my things. I can figure it out. I've used Linux in the past. I know how to learn it pretty quickly. I've done this, and that with Linux. Am I expert? No. Will I be? Yes. And if that's okay with them, that's great. If not, then it's not a good fit. And you were proactive in asking about next steps and commitments. Like, when should I hear back from you? When should I follow up with you? What are the next steps after we're done here? And you need to have that so that you can follow up. You need to follow up. It's part of your job as a sales engineer to follow up. Part of the interview process, there's the demo. Demo needs a lot of work. You need to practice it over and over. You need to come up with a story. If you need help with that, reach out to me at the SE hotline. It's what I do. If you need help with the interview process, reach out to me on the SE hotline. It is what I do. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 years. These are a lot of different reasons why you might not be getting the job. I would love to hear why you think, if you're not getting a job, why that is in the comments below. If I missed something, add it, please. I always like to learn from you as much as I like to share my knowledge. So share this video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, let me know why so I can get better. And share a link and share, like, and subscribe. Yeah, these are the words. That's it. Get back to work. Peace.